I hope you guys are all well. This is a fun little episode of the weekly briefing. Again, the Christmas season being so short, we are just talking about that. It's been kind of funny to try to figure out how to wrap up the year in 3 or 4 quick weekly briefing meetings. We've been very practical over the last couple of weeks, talking about your budget, some sales projections, your factors, so that you're making those decisions as quickly as possible, even speculating where the work's going to come from. But today I thought we'd just have some fun, do a little bit of look back, get everyone's thoughts and opinions here in the room. We're going to welcome in anybody. You guys could just unmute yourselves and have a conversation with us today too. Be part of this conversation. But just kind of look back on the last 52 weeks, I guess, 48 weeks of just things that we've learned and processes. And I know what you three are going to talk about. So I know we're going to have some pretty good insights here. Before we start though, a couple of things that I just want to tell people about. Confab groups are going to start again. Our kickoff week is January 6th. If you're not part of a small group and you don't know which small group you're going to be part of, please join us January 6th. We'll have a conversation. Joe, you're going to do a small group. What's the topic of your small group?
Spoiler alert, because I said I'd put this in your inbox before and I haven't, but it's going to be called Selling with Soul. And it's about recognizing when you're in a selling situation and knowing what to do instead of taking the approach of trying to create more leads and manufacture situations in which someone is ready to buy.
Yeah. So, and again, this isn't an accelerator. These are confab groups. So open conversations, dialogue, a lot of feedback, just outside processing. And it's a group with you and other business owners. Mine's going to be called Exactly How to Sell. Mine's going to be a very practical workshop. My hope is to be able to help people work with their CRM, process leads, send out emails, whatever, and just actually establish your weekly sales routine over the first 10 weeks. So if you don't have a sales routine, you want help or just want another warm body, if you're an extrovert, the best way to practice is to be with other people, whatever you need, just want you to be able to have a place you can go. And even if you're in Joe's group and you want to come into my group and do the workshop as well, mine's Thursday mornings, 9 o'clock Pacific. Joe, yours is Tuesday mornings, 9 o'clock Pacific. So that's available. And there might be a third group. Brent might keep his group going. And his group is for people who are intentionally small business owners. So where you don't want to talk about all the time about growing, expanding. If you're kind of tired of that conversation and you're comfortable where you are, but you still want to relate to other people, Brent's group's great for that. So there'll be more. That's January 6th. And Joe, you were part of that this last.
That was the fun group this time around. We had a lot of good times in that group.
Yeah. So it's confab groups. We're going to kick that off in January. So keep your eyes open. All right, let's have a conversation. Let's kick things off here. I thought it'd be kind of cool actually just to show we have a lot of these weekly briefings. We do a lot of this stuff. And every Monday I call it my weekly burden instead of weekly briefing to figure out what the topic's going to be. So I so appreciate when people put things in community or ask questions or client things are coming forward, and it gives us an understanding of the pulse, what's helpful to you, anything that we can kind of contribute and have conversations about. If you guys have future ideas, a guest, whatever you want to be part of this conversation, we'd love it. And Terry Lee, we're going to have you as a guest pretty soon. So hope you're warming up your speaking voice there for us. I don't know if everyone knows this, but Terry is quite literally my very first RevThink client. Well, yeah. Half a client. There was one other client that came around the same time, but
early days.
Yeah, Roger LA. It's my first one. So Terry's gonna make fun of me, I think.
19 years, boy.
Taught me. But look at this. Look at all the topics we kind of covered over the last 12 months, to be honest. Many of these conversations were great. We're able to kind of bring on guests. And I think one thing that I love about the weekly briefing is it happens because it's happening weekly. We can kind of see a pattern and the changes, the momentum. Sometimes we deal exactly with that when we do these financial reviews and we're showing you when we grab people's quarterly reports and we give you the kind of macro view, things that we can see looking at people's numbers. That's really helpful. But the other is just like where the conversations are going. So I think many of us, things we're going to talk about as we kind of look back are like those conversation pieces, how conversations have changed. Joe, I think your starting off with you, I think that one thing you recognized this last year is just like on the sales side, how the industry changes and the need to kind of like think differently about approaching a client and what that conversation is, right?
Yeah, and honestly, it started from the first time I joined with you and Matt earlier this year. We were talking about the sales blueprint, but I started talking about the performance of sales. And when I think about performing, I don't think of it like sort of a stage actor reading a script. I think about it like a musician performing live, right? You're the most excited or excitable version of yourself, and people relate to that energy and authenticity. What I'm kind of realizing is that you have to actually like what you're selling. You actually have to want to do the thing for the person, and you have to actually like doing the work, or that performance is sad and gross. And so my through line this entire year, and maybe the thing I'm reflecting most on is like, how much do you like your business? How much do you like the clients, the work, and the people? And if the answer is not as much as you should, that tends to be a place to start.
I'm gonna call this out right now. We have Ryan Summers here today, which means we have to like multitask because he's typing as fast as we talk. And Ryan, if we can't get to every comment you put out there, we're gonna try as much as possible.
And changing locations while typing.
I know.
Yeah, it's a nice little tour of your house, right?
It's the chat. The chat's just for like people who don't want to like hear their voices. It's a second channel. You guys don't realize people watch three things at the same time now?
Yeah, totally.
That's our audience, right?
So
well, four of us are here. We're trying.
Yeah.
Joe, what's funny is like I even heard the progression of that throughout the year from the first conversation to almost the last one. Maybe it was the second last one you and I did together. And that revelation of like what is actually kind of cutting through conversation and who you are, what you're about is really like, if you don't know that and you're not anchored in that, that's not gonna resonate with anybody. Nothing's gonna resonate.
Totally. I think we've gotten to a place where everyone wants their offer and their position and all of these things to be so clear that sales doesn't have to be hard. But the only way sales isn't hard is if you're confidently yourself. And there are a lot of things we can do to help ourselves get there, certainly. But missing that piece where you're confidently yourself, to me, means missing the part where people are excited to work with you, which is kind of the whole point of being in business for ourselves.
Yeah. Matt, I almost feel like that's where you were picking up with Rekindle too. Rekindle is the first time we ever did it. You did it this year when we were at you were at Camp Milgraph. And got to practice that with the live group. And then we of course did the course, which by the way, tomorrow's our last course. That's our last of the class, right?
We made it through our 7-week sprint. Yeah, it's been exciting. And I've ordered a hot sauce to send everyone in February. Yeah, but no, definitely, I guess, I could not agree with you, Joe. You've got to like and be who you are. And then trying to help people figure out, well, who am I? And, you start asking those big existential questions. And I think the good thing is you already know. It's just actually tapping into that deeper self that works. I took that sales blueprint tile that you focused in on and it reminded me of something I picked up of Matthew Packwood this year. Which I think is pretty valid when you're networking in these last furious days of drinking and yammering. And Matt Packwood said at the beginning of the Masters of Motion event this year, he said, you're only going to have 5 good conversations in this room. And I kind of went, yeah. At the time I went, Matt Packwood, you're just saying something. But then I actually looked at the cards I picked up and the conversations that I had after this very long 15-hour day. And there were actually about 5 good ones. There were lots of little random excited ones around that. But when I thought about the conversations that mattered that day, there were about 5 of them. And that actually, it makes you go, well, I've actually got to listen to people and I've got to be in the moment when I'm networking. And then B, if you get overwhelmed by going out, it's like, well, you might only talk to 5 people. And that's not that hard. You do that at a kid's soccer game. Like, networking doesn't have to be this overwhelming thing. You can there's a smaller way but more powerful.
Yeah, I think that what seems to be popping up more and more is this understanding of how dialogue, conversation are really the way of connecting and pushing things through. Early on, I think it was on a weekly briefing that we called like the death of the positioning statement. Like those positioning statements that people have had where they've memorized and they have it really, really clear. And so you say, what does your company do? And then they pull out that almost memory card and they pop that thing through. Where what you discovered with Rekindle was you have to be genuine. You have to understand your positioning. We're not saying into positioning. You have to have a very unique positioning, and you have to have something that stands out. But how you explain yourself, if it's just a script that you recite that doesn't have any way of connecting, opposed to being able to describe it to the person you're talking to. And with Rekindle, you use the example of a sommelier, and that the concept of sommelier going to a table and first asking questions. Hey, what are you having for dinner? What kind do you like? Red wine, white wine? Like, you find out a little bit more about that customer. And then when you have that bottle of wine, you explain it. There are words that are common words to explain it, but when you explain it, it's something that person can relate to, but it's uniquely the fingerprint of that bottle of wine. And if we wanted people to get their skill level up with the words and positioning and understanding that they can explain their company like a sommelier explains like a bottle of wine.
Yeah, I loved how sommeliers, so I looked into it, they sell at the table. And, they have to work out in about 3 lines. They look at you and they go, what are you wearing? Are you paying any attention to the menu? Are you on a date? Are you trying to impress someone? And like in 2 or 3 interactions, you can work out whether they're going to go for $50 or $180 bottle of wine, whether they're going to go ridiculous. And I think it's the same with your producers and your senior creatives, like selling at the pitching table. Like, you've made this amazing deck, you've made this amazing presentation, but that final bit where they actually go, yeah, I want to work with this dude, I want to lock in and spend 2 months doing this incredibly difficult thing, is going to happen in the room.
Yeah. I love it too, because I think a lot of people want to compare creative ownership to being the chef or the restaurant. The idea of like a 4-star restaurant to be able to roll out things and this value proposition, and all that's really good. But when you actually get down to the job of a sommelier, now you're understanding sales, right? That who you are as a company can be the restaurant, but your waiters or whatever, that's the exchange. And how do you get that into a value proposition? Often the waiter is asking the client, what can I get for you? And we take that role and we run it. But the sommelier is actually, what are you interested in? I'll give you the advice, and that value proposition is very different. So I love that you found that path in the Rekindle accelerator. It seems to match some of the trend that's needed nowadays.
Yeah, and there's an excellent, in the new season of Chef's Table, there's an excellent episode, because I'm now watching anything related to cooking, about these Mexican chefs that run this restaurant in Mexico City. And the owners, the 2 chefs were like deeply embedded in it, but it's about them actually letting go and letting the rest of their restaurant run the business, which I think is pretty relevant for anyone who runs a small studio.
We'll have to do Rekindle again in the new year. I think I
hope so.
Hung and Ollie and Kate and all those that have played with it. My favorite was when we took a positioning statement, you put it into ChatGPT. What was this exercise? We put the positioning statement in ChatGPT and had it.
Everyone took their positioning statement and rewrote it in ChatGPT in the style of a musician that they loved. And so Bien rewrote theirs as the Beastie Boys, but Jonah from Bonona wrote hers in the style of Maroon 5, and it actually was brilliant. Like, it actually gave her that level of pop friendliness that she was missing. I've even been writing her some like reach out prompts using Maroon 5 as the basis of it, and then going like taking an outreach statement, shortening it, and then going rewrite in the style of Maroon 5, and it's fresh. It works. I did something for Home in the style of ad rock, and that's a bit too much, but it had a good attitude.
Yeah, we tried. When you and I recited the BNs as the Beastie Boys, so it was pretty fun.
We rewrote Buck's positioning statement in the style of the Beastie Boys, and Tim and I did a call and response Beastie Boys.
I want to see that recording.
Yeah,
I don't think we recorded that one.
No, that's recorded. It was a special moment.
I want to start doing everything in the style of the Beastie Boys. Wait a minute.
I just say.
Well, it's funny to think about, right? Because if you think about, like, you were just trying to say, like, hey, how often do you struggle with trying to find the words of what you do for a living? And then to just use AI to kind of like put it into a fun and friendly way. But how clever it can be in finding words. Like finding the words is where we struggle. So to have something help us find the words and relate is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Jason? What's the, we've been to a lot of weekly briefings. So
yeah, well, it's interesting as I reflect back on another year. I think about, and seeing Terry here, I think about how long I've been with you, and it was 15 years ago that we were at that fundraiser, and you came over and we're like, hey, what are you doing? And then we started wearing pirate hats on Google Chat and going down to Roger's office and Big Star's office when they had an LA office and things like that. It's just the changes that I've seen and the insights. It has been phenomenal. And I'd say for me that this year felt like it felt like finally the COVID curse, maybe, or whatever that you'd want to call that, was kind of like finally gone. And it was a shift for companies because they didn't know how to operate in 2020. 2021 was like, what are we doing? Still 2022 was kind of like, okay, this is the new normal. And 2023 was still like all this money washing through. And then this year, and it was like, and by the way, in America, the election, of course, was a big disrupting factor. I think for me, and man, I feel it just feels so simple, but like one of the clients that we had, and we started working with towards the middle of the year, they ended last year with about $800K in loss on about, I don't know, it was a little less than 4 million in revenue. And it was so interesting. A super smart firm, super smart people leading this. But as we came to them with kind of a new paradigm and a new lens, it was like, wow, I'd never thought about my business in this way, or I never thought that I could approach work and clients in this way. And just in shifting that mindset, here we are. We just did a finance call with them today, and we're celebrating that, in the last 6 months or so, we've turned things around, and we're not going to lose any money in 2024, and we're gonna show a modest profit. And it's like, so for me, it was so simple, the idea that shifting the mindset, and it was about all of the value that their firm had locked up, and they weren't translating that value to their prices. And it just, in the way that they started thinking and communicating with clients, their clients started to see that value and were rushing to do business. So
this was the this is that level of advice we give out as consultants, of the don't you know who you are level.
Yeah.
Because absolutely brilliant, somewhat one of a kind, and world-class contracts that they get. You can imagine if the company lost $800,000 in 2023. So you can imagine, like, a lot of companies don't even make $800,000 to be able to have to lose that and then understand what their turnaround is going to be. But I'd say their responsiveness to the idea of a value proposition, and to be really direct and really clear with their clients, big impact. And again, like, I think that what you and I had to learn on their behalf and then recite back to them is to understanding who their clients were and what they were actually looking for, so that it didn't scare off their clients when they were direct with them. They could be direct and understanding and walk away from a project that wasn't going to be valuable to begin with. My favorite part of the meeting this morning, Jay, I don't know if you caught this one, but a client had asked them to participate in a bid proposal process. And when this owner asked the potential client, what's our probability of winning? And they said, well, no, we're just lucky to be part of the bid. She says, well, you can pay me to do that process, but I'm not going to invest in something that you're not going to win. Like, call me when you're going to win and I'll invest. Otherwise, you can just pay me, I'll be part of it. But she didn't get pulled into something like, aren't we just good and lucky because someone's going to talk to us? She set the record straight. I was like, gosh, that is such a clear direction of where most of us need to be putting ourselves with that value proposition.
And I think it also challenged it, even this thought exercise challenged me personally, just to evaluate, like, what wrong assumptions have I operated in for the year of 2024 about me, about what I'm doing personally, about how I'm advising teams and things like that. And it's really shifting in some ways to think that through and think, how do I want to carry the momentum that we were able to create for that client? How do I want to carry that momentum for myself and the other clients that that I'm working with? It's just a bit of a mind shift for myself, which I'm really appreciating.
It's what's nice about end of years, we can ask those big questions, right? What's going to be next about 2025 and where we are in 2024. I'll say for me, like, the pivot point for me for the year, obviously Catalyst was really big in October to do that event with Digital Design Days and run an entire think tank with brands and large agencies, large brands and large agencies, and have an actual dialogue. Like, that's 100% what it was. Nobody had a script. Nobody, it was something we would brainstorm. We went through brainstorming process over a 3-day period, lots of conversations, tons of Post-it notes, tons of them. And then to get down to this understanding that, one, how the digital marketing bubble that we've all depended on for so many years now is totally burst. And there's such a lack of confidence in the marketplace that there has to be a way to get through to your clients, to these large brands, and talk to them in a very different way. And the key word that came out interesting for a 2024 year was humanity, where imagine like how much people were worried about AI, and the number one thing that we summarized it was like what we're looking for in the marketplace more than anything now is humanity. We're looking for understanding. How do I help you as a brand? How do I help you as a client? How do I come alongside in this process of lack of confidence? What can I do? And then how will you listen to me? How can I approach you? What does it mean to connect in a real way? And for me, like, that was such a great kind of understanding of a base of what needs to be next. If you guys remember when Blair Enns and David Baker joined us for a weekly briefing, they literally said the same thing on the agency side with the work that they're doing is we just have to not think that the old way of doing sales and connections with clients is going to work anymore. We have to really think differently about it. I'm going to open this thing up to, I'm going to start removing our spotlights here for a second here. Because I want to kind of hear from other people too, what your thoughts are. If there's anything that you picked up on specifically for the year in the conversation. Ryan, you're the one with your camera on right now, so you're stuck with us in this conversation. But just looking into 2025, I mean, I think at the end of this year, there seems to be a lot more confidence. You guys can give me a thumbs up or amen or whatever you want to here, but a lot more confidence of what the industry looks like. I'm doing a lot of financial projections with clients. Q1 feels good. There's a couple clients that are pivoting. Jason, you and I are working with one that's going through a big pivot right now in the types of services they're doing. And they're being somewhat forced to do it, but also just taking advantage of the opportunity that the industry is giving them, the market's giving them to do it. So as we think about 2025, I'm curious what people are looking forward to, what insights you've gained, and what kind of ways of pushing it. Kind of open up the mic a little bit that way. Until someone pops up. Unless, Ryan, you're going to pop up first.
I heard someone say in the long-term content space, there's a mantra of just stay alive till 25. And everyone's just been hanging out through this year going, I'm just going to make it through this year because next year they're going to start making shows again. So I know that everyone who's trying to pitch animated series is staying alive. Ooh, and the fix is coming in 26.
It gives me no hope for the next 12 months, Ryan. Come on.
Not that you're not already a fast typer, Ryan, but you were so quick to say the fix in 26.
I just had this conversation with someone who is like, you guys have worked with Netflix. You want to get in on a pitch with us for Netflix? I was like, you have not been reading the news for the last year, my friend. Like, that is not what's happening. Unless you have like direct ties to IP that you can prove it's going to move the needle, like, or you've spent the last 2 years making a YouTube series that has 250 million viewers, like, new content is not coming out from people like us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not this year.
The golden year a little bit is over, where they were just spend anything, to make anything. Now the margins on that content area are very, very hard to kind of push through. And the competition's really rough. Most people are not consuming content in the same manner. So that's some of that digital bubble that's bursting too. It's like the eyeballs are showing up in places there's nowhere to put advertising. Although the gaming space, I'm going to bring on a couple of really smart advisors in early in the year, talk about the gaming space. There's some really incredible advertising happening in the gaming spaces, not in the games, but in the gaming spaces that are kind of breakthrough. Ryan, you put in the chat here too, the M&A process. That really is something that's heating up a lot.
That is.
I'm doing more valuations. I'm actually working with Punctuation, Jonathan Baker at Punctuation, kind of closely and talking about the valuations we're seeing and the speed at which acquisitions, that people are talking about acquisitions. I have a theory in a sense of what's going on. Do you have a theory in a sense of anything from your side?
I just think that there's been a lot of dry powder for the last 2 to 3 years after the Figma Adobe thing got squelched, that people were just like, I'm not spending any money. I'm not even wasting the time, the resources, the lawyer fees to even consider it. And now that there's like a green light in another month or whatever it's going to be, that like there's going to be a lot of weird ones. There's a lot of companies, tech companies and other companies that like their valuations mean that they need to be sold fast. And there's a lot of CEOs at companies that have money that are like, I need a slam dunk on the way out to the next place. So they need to rope in an acquisition. So in that churn, there's going to be a lot of companies that have marketing departments that are doubled over. They don't know how to talk about the company with positioning going forward. That there's going to be opportunity for people who know how to explain this stuff and show this stuff and rebrand, change the brand. Like I think Grammarly just bought Hoda, which makes almost no sense until you actually start looking into the reasons why. I think there's gonna be a lot of those head scratchers where it's like, there's people with money to spend and they got to spend it. And there's people who are like, we're tapped. We're not going to get a D round, an E round, an F round. We got to sell to get something back. And I think it's going to be accelerated a lot. The first 2 to 3 quarters are going to be bonkers, I think.
Yeah. I think what you're getting to is the cash crunch has really hit certain people's valuation marks where the opportunity now is to sell or must sell. And other markets, European markets being one of them, buying into the US marketplace, this is a great time for them to expand. So there's almost like a European push into the US right now. That's really, really
interesting. It's everywhere. Yeah. Honda and Nissan are talking about merging. They just announced today.
Yeah.
Like stuff you've never heard of or dreamt of. Like not just like a little tech company that you didn't know was making money as a SaaS, but like are way overvalued. Like big companies are like, you know what? You know how much money we could save if we could just both cut our marketing departments in half and our reporting like it's going to be weird for the next 6 months, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
In our industry, I think that what I'm seeing is there was a big surge of companies that came out 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, that surge there. And so those companies are now at, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're feeling it. They're like, wait a second here. What's my next big push? And there is a shift taking the industry. And some of those business owners are saying it would be nice to merge and share some vision, share some resources, and help get through this big push. So you can see these almost ways of like mixing and matching parts. I feel like there's like a Garanimals match happening. Like I have a little bit of this, I have this one. We put these things together and see how they snap together. So very exciting time. And it's great to be working with these business owners and processing it. You can hear from the inside out of there's no desperation for it. There's just opportunity that comes maybe once in a career or once every 20 years. And this is their 20-year mark. So they want to take advantage of it. Really fun. How about, what you guys, Matt, Jason, Joe, give me insights of what you're thinking 2025 might look like?
I'm interested in building on your sort of thought when we had David and Blair on around humanity coming back into selling. Surprise, I'm thinking about selling only. I think that we're going to have a great deep positioning. I think your ability to sort of be a person in a selling situation is a big deal. And I think your ability to have an idea that is genuinely distinctive and your commitment to making that idea become public is going to be the only way to differentiate in a pretty crazy marketplace. I mean, Ryan, you mentioned IPG and Omnicom. The two biggest practitioners of the thing that is the most homogenous, and we're running out of traditional advertising inventory, are just going to become one instead of figuring out how to be different. And so there's going to be a lot of that too, right? How good are you at figuring out how to be different is a big question that's on my mind as we think about, the ways businesses like ours try and stay alive and also to grow.
Yeah, that's great. Matt, before you have to run off, I wanted to give you a chance to say a Merry Christmas and a sign off as well, because this is our last weekly briefing for the year.
Truly. Merry Christmas. Have a great break. I'll see you in February.
Yeah,
I'm going to Mexico. I got my tariff holiday where we're going to Canada and Mexico and avoiding the States completely. But I will be in the States next year sometime. But have a great break. Thank you very much for having a part of your life. And
yeah, thanks for everything you've
see you
done
next
for us,
year.
Matt. It's been a great year.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
See you, dudes. Bye.
Yeah, that's great. I love what you're talking about, Joe. I think to me, it's this understanding of I can't even figure out how to tap into the bubble that just burst when digital marketing burst, and the lack of confidence that's there, but how absolutely open people are up for new conversations. And if you're not doing outreach and you're not explaining yourself and you don't have that unique opportunity to present yourself as a thought leader, you're just going to miss out on one of the best runs, the best growth periods we're going to see for the next 10 years. There's so much to it. Ryan, it's funny to have you on camera because I often feel like you're the one that asks these questions more than anyone. It's like, hey, I can do design, but can you give me some insight on where this is being put? And I was talking to a media buyer recently, and what he told me was like he has a client that will give him $15 million a year in media buy. They expect her to be 90% inefficiency. So they're getting $1.5 million of value of their $15 million spend. But if they would just invest in the content part of it, the value, not huge, but it would grow from about $1.5 million of value to $3 million in value. And the content creation doesn't cost anything. A couple $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, and they can get a major growth period to it. We sit on the converted edge there of like, we can make more opportunity for conversion. The problem is the team acquiring the media buy isn't the creative team. You're going through some procurement processor that's sitting on the wrong end of it. So the CMOs are going to start asking different questions, and we're going to have to be in the room and explain what our role is in that.
Well, and along those lines, I'm very interested in the idea, like over the past, I don't know, 10 to 15 years of CMOs finally getting an actual voice in the boardroom. And it's because data allowed them to say a thing that other MBAs can react to, right? Now that data is useless, right? Now that digital marketing doesn't do the thing that it used to do. And it's not that it never did it, it's that it doesn't do it anymore, which I think that nuance is important. Only one of two things has happened. Only the CMOs getting the boot out of the boardroom, or they're going to invite different types of creative people in. And I have a hard time believing that CMOs whose tenure has never been shorter are going to roll over and say, keep spending money on Facebook. So there's legitimately no greater time, in my opinion, to be advocating for creativity in marketing and advocating for creativity in business. I'm just excited about what that means for folks like us.
Yeah, me too. I think, and if you aren't asking questions differently or looking for different partnerships to break through that, you're just going to miss out. And that's where, like, we'll go back to the M&A process. Maybe this is a chance for you to start asking, who could I partner with to get me to the other side of that? So, yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the new year. I'm actually looking for a nice break. I know about the rest of you guys. I can use this break, kind of catch up on sleep and do the things I need to. One big thing that we have coming up is a little revamp of RevCommunity. We've been working hard behind the scenes closely with the people that build the Circle platform, and they gave us insights and some access to certain pieces of their technology we're going to be able to move forward with in 2025. So we're going to play with some of the spaces and work within the spaces there, get you better mobile access to information as well. My hope is that we get some idea and dialogue back into the community between you business owners and sharing some of those resources. I would love to, but also to be able to create a portal for communications. And we're going to we might change the format of this or a couple other conversations Joe, I know you're working on some content as well. We're going to launch a different day of the week. So look forward to that. I'm going to need the next 2 weeks to kind of put some of that pieces together too. But we look forward to that kind of rollout early in the year. I have to say, appreciate all of you for being part of RevCommunity, be part of the weekly briefing. The last year has been really great. RevThink's gone through some changes, as you know, but some great opportunities and amazing leads. Lisa Marie couldn't join us today, but Lisa Marie's participation from the production point of view was huge at the beginning of the year. But also the new classes, Rekindle, Foundations class, and so on that we did. I love meeting the new people and the new faces and helping out any way we can. Whatever we can do to help you survive and thrive in business, life, and career, we want to be there with you. So feel free to reach out to us, give us that input, and of course, we'll see you on RevCommunity. I'll give you guys each a chance to say a farewell for the end of the year.
Yeah, I'll go first. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's participated, and I've gotten the opportunity to have conversations with through RevCommunity this year. It's been an insanely fun learning experience, and it's been deeply gratifying to get to know all of you. This is a whole new sort of like side of the creative business for me, as many of you know, and so it's been an incredible amount of fun to just get to hang out with all of you. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Great to have you.
Yeah, and I would just say it is an incredible privilege to be a part of this community and to be able to grow with, support, and be a part of so many teams in such a dynamic and incredible industry. It has been truly an amazing 15 years so far. So really have enjoyed every moment of it. So. Well, maybe
stop saying 15 years. It makes
I know, huh? Right? Like, yeah, it's like,
yeah. We're gonna be hitting 20 pretty soon here. All right, blessings to you guys. Thank you for everything, and we'll see you in early January with the weekly briefing again. Pay attention to emails so we can keep you posted. Things that are happening over the break. But if we don't talk to you, blessings to you guys. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll see you soon.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.